June 10th, 1943. Received my notice to report to Milwaukee for my first physical on the 22nd of June, 1943. June 22nd, 1943. Left Fond du Lac at 5:30 a.m. to go to Milwaukee for my final physical. By 12:30 p.m. I had finished my examination and at 2:30 p.m. was sworn into the U.S. Army and put in the ERC for 14 days beginning on the 22nd of June. July 6, 1943. Left Fond du Lac for Camp Grant at 11:30 a.m. Had a morning layover in Milwaukee. Got into Grant at 8:30 p.m. and immediately received my first indoctrination lecture. July 9th, 1943. Having been completely processed, I was put on a truck and driven across the tracks to Company A of the 34th MTB. In other words, I was to become a medic. July 19th, 1943. After lying around, our company was finally activated and we began our first week of basic training. August 9th, 1943. The first 3 weeks of basic have been completed. Men were chosen to go to special schools. Based on previous experience, I was put in bugler's school. October 2nd, 1943. The end of 11 weeks of basic training, and the same day I was transferred to the Military Police Company 1623rd SU as MP Bugler, my post being at Camp Headquarters. October 18 through 20, had my first 3-day. December 23rd, 1943, promoted to Private First Class. December 24 through 26, 1943, 3-day pass for the Christmas holidays. March 4 to 5, 1944, a 2-day pass to break the monotony. May 2 through 8, 1944, a 6-day furlough after 10 months in the Army. May 31st, 1944, transferred and assigned to Company A 35th MTB, but attached back to the MPs on special duty.
June 16, 1944. Shipped out of Camp Grant at 8:00 a.m. Friday morning, headed for Fort Dix, New Jersey. Arrived at Chicago just in time to catch a furlough train east. 15 of us were given a sleeper. Ate dinner in Indiana, supper in Ohio, and slept in Pennsylvania. Only a few stops: Fort Wayne, Indiana, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Then to Trenton, New Jersey, and finally to Fort Dix. There at 10:00 a.m. Saturday morning, the usual entrance inspection, then free. Saturday, a weekend pass, and headed for New York City. July 16, 1944. The entire 107th Hospital shipped out of Fort Dix, POE, Port of Entry bound. We were convoyed to Camp Kilmer, New Jersey. July 23, 1944. After a week of overseas preparation at Camp Kilmer, New Jersey, we shipped to New York Harbor, where we boarded the British troops ship, the Mauretania. While I was at Kilmer, I had 2 12-hour passes into New York City. Called home during the first. Saw Gene Krupa on the second. We boarded trains at Kilmer around 4:00 p.m. and reached Jersey City, New Jersey around 5:30 p.m. Then we took the ferry across the mouth of the Hudson River and to the pier at which the ship docked, 6462 South, Pier 86. Very shortly thereafter, we boarded the ship and were directed to our quarters, P2 forms, meaning promenade deck, port side, crowded quarters, but better than the fellows down below. July 24, 1944. We shoved off for the ETO at 9:30 a.m. No rousing farewell, just a very quiet departure. Sighted our last sleep of American soil, Sandy Hook, late that afternoon. July 30th, 1944. After 5 days of seeing nothing but water and SS's, we sighted some of the Irish coast. Quite a relief to know that we were so close to our destination. July 31st, 1944. When we arose, the ship was lying outside of the harbor of Liverpool, England. When the tide rose, we proceeded toward our docking position. To our disappointment, we didn't dock until 2:30 that afternoon. Still greater a disappointment was handed us when we learned that we would not disembark until Monday morning. Not much sleep that night. August 1st, 1944. Disembarked from the Mauretania at 11:15 a.m. and proceeded to the railroad station where we caught a train after being served coffee and donuts by the ARC. Proceeded from Liverpool to our new location. Passed through Shrewsbury en route. Got off the train at Kington and then by bus to our hospital, which is 2.5 miles from Kington and about 2 miles from the Wales border. Got in camp about 6:00 p.m.
May 6, 1945. Still in England, 20 miles from Hereford, 3 miles from Kington. Kept busy and interested by playing in our dance band, 107th Musical Yanks. Played a 3-day engagement in London during March. May 8, 1945. VE Day. The Stars and Stripes headlines were, Germany quits. Everybody celebrated except me. Played for a dance, VE Eve, and had to recuperate. May 23, 1945. On pass in Hereford when I heard the outfit had been aborted. Where to now? June 13th, 14th, 1945. Boarded train at Kington at 23:30. Left station 1 past midnight for Gourock, Scotland. Arrived Gourock 1100. Rest of the outfit left Kington 04:30. Arrival 16:35. We boarded the Lude at 1200. Boarded the Queen Mary at 13:30. Given a room on A deck 159, a very comfortable looking 3-man room. June 15th, 1945. Slept late around most of the day. Began to move toward the open sea shortly after 1700. Lost sight of merry old England a little after 2200. Weather began to get a little rough, set our watches back 2 hours. June 16th, 1945. The ship has really been rocking lately. Guess it's the rough Irish Sea. Plenty of seasickness. I've really been lucky so far. Retarded our watches 1 hour. June 17th, 1945. Still having pretty rough weather, but getting better all along. Rumor has us pulling in New York Harbor Wednesday morning 0800. Watches back 1 hour. June 18th, 1945. The 107th General Hospital had a meeting in the group mess. We were given our section number for disembarkment, watches back 1 hour. June 19th, 1945. Colonel Dennis, commanding officer of all personnel aboard ship, spoke to us again, told us we'd land around 1500 tomorrow and begin to unload shortly after. Hot as hell today. June 20th, 1945. Between 0800 and 11:15, we spotted quite a number of other ships. Planes, dirigibles, and helicopters were giving us a welcome too. Sighted land the USA at 11:15 to 11:30 a.m. The pilot boarded us shortly thereafter, up the Hudson, and past the Statue of Liberty between 1330 and 1400. Docked at Pier 90 at 1500. At 16:45, we moved off the ship to the pier, given a wonderful reception with donuts, newspaper reporters, and photographs. Then on the ferry to Jersey City to board the train for Camp Kilmer, New Jersey. Arrived at Kilmer at 2000. Given a speech, then taken to our barracks, and finally food and bed. Thursday, June 21st, 1945. Issued suntans. Sent some junk home, spent most of the day eating at the PX, called home at night, and talked to Carol.
June 22nd, 1945. Fellows going to Grant, not Sheridan. Fell out at 14:10, boarded train at 16:45. Stopped at Lehigh, PA at 2000 hours. June 23rd, 1945, Saturday. Stopped at Sayre, PA at 5 past midnight till 0100. Met a very pretty blonde, Eleanor Ellis. Crossed the suspension bridge into Canada at 0630. Then at 11:45, we left Canada and entered Michigan via the St. Clair Tunnel. Watches back 1 hour. Stopped at Port Huron, then Battle Creek. Sit Chicago at 1800. Finally, at 2240, we left Chicago. June 24th, 1945, Sunday. Pulled into Rockford at midnight. Ran up to the Boston, lunch, and had a couple of hamburgers. At 02:15, we left Rockford for Grant. 0300, refreshments, then speech, and finally bed at 04:30. Up at 0900, called today at 12 o'clock. Issued suntans at 12:30. Got paid $36. Then at 17:35, got my furlough papers. Goodbye, Army, for 34 days. July 27th, 1945, Friday. Reported back to Camp Grant. Had a date with Norma Johnson, and then went into camp shortly after midnight. July 28th, 1945. Got paid and laid around the rest. July 29th, 1945. Up in time for noon show. Then we were told to be ready to leave at 1400. We were ready, but the train didn't arrive till after 1600, and we finally left Grant at 1700 for Fort Lewis. July 29th to August 2nd, 1945. Traveled through Illinois to Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, and Washington. August 13th, 1945. Rudy's birthday, but even more important was the Japs' acceptance of the Potsdam surrender ultimatum.
In this reply, a full acceptance of the Potsdam Declaration, which specifies the unconditional surrender of Japan.
August 14th, 1945. At 1600, the president announced that the Allies had accepted the Japs' surrender. Now, when do I get out? September 2nd, 1945. President Truman announced today as being officially VJ Day. Glenn Armstrong and I were in Portland, Oregon for the weekend. September 7th, 1945. Found out that I was being shipped to the 210th Station Hospital. Supposed to be a hot outfit. September 8th, 1945. Shipped to the 210th Station Hospital with 5 other fellows from the 107th General Hospital. Our old outfit is breaking up very fast. The 210th at the present isn't very hot. They've been ready to ship across since January. Have had 6 ready dates and leave sent 2 advance parties. Supposed to leave this coming Wednesday, but it's been called off, so I hear. October 10th, 1945. Got word that I would be shipped to Letterman General Hospital sometime around the 16th of October. Here it's a good deal, but do I hate to leave Fort Lewis and Tacoma.
October 16, 1945. Assembled at the transportation office at Fort Lewis at 4 p.m. Got our travel tickets and loaded in trucks. Got to Union Station, Tacoma at 6 p.m. Found out our train didn't leave until 1 p.m. October 17, 1945. The train pulled out of the station at 1:30. They really jammed us in a beat-up old day coach. But we survived the trip to Portland, got there about 7:00. Couldn't fit us on the first train to Frisco at 8 o'clock. We loafed around town and caught the 1400 special. October 18, 1945. Arrived in Oakland at 1400. Then we had to ride a ferry to Frisco. Had an ambulance pick us up and we got to LGH at 16:45. November 17, 1945. I've got a good deal here at Letterman, and I like it a lot. But today I put in for a transfer to the 253rd Army Guard Forces Band, and I stand a good chance of having it approved. November 26, 1945. Merry Christmas. After 31 days in Ward G of Letterman for nasopharyngitis, I was finally discharged to duty. But I have been transferred to the 361st ASF Band at Camp Beale, so I'll just put in my time until I get paid. Happy New Year, January 1, 1946. Joe and I went to the East-West football game at Kezar. Final score, 7-7. January 2nd, 1946. Left Frisco on the 4 p.m. ferry. The train for Marysville left Oakland at 4:50. Arrived Marysville at 11. Caught a bus out to Camp Beale at midnight. Got to Beale about 12:30 p.m. Couldn't find the band barracks, so I just went to the nearest barracks and got some sleep. January 3, 1946. Reported into the band at 8:30, just in time to join rehearsal. Chief Warrant Officer Douglas is a pretty good Joe, as are the rest of the fellows. Beale itself is a dump. Spread out just like a 3-ring circus. February 2, 1946. Received a 15-day furlough plus 5 days travel time. March 20, 1946. Promoted to T5 after 32 and a half months service. March 25, 1946. Celebrating my 3rd anniversary in the Army.
March 26, 1946. Found out I should be separated by the 31st of March. Should have reported on the 21st of March. April 4th, 1946. My clearance finally came through. April 5th, 1946. Made a recording for Air Army Day broadcast. Received my orders to report to the Separation Center on the 8th, a Monday. Played for General's reception. Good band, poor crowd. April 6, 1946. Army Day. Up at 4 a.m. to get ready for trip to Sacramento for parade. Back to camp at 1 p.m. Officers dance at night. April 8th, 1946. Reported to Separation Center at 07:30. After preliminary checks, Johnny Spiesberger and I just loafed around our barracks until we got put on a roster. April 9th, 1946. Began our processing at 06:50. Orientation and physical, they're through. Also records check and claims. April 10th, 1946. Turned in our blankets at 0800. Final show at 0830. Final pay and then into the chapel for separation ceremonies at 0900. The ceremony was completed at 9:15 a.m. Then we were given our discharge button. Went back to the band and sat in for a few tunes. Then Johnny S. and I took off for Sacramento. Hung around town all day and caught the train for Chicago at 11:10 p.m. April 13th, 1946. Arrived in Chicago at 10 a.m. Said goodbye to Johnny S. and then at 11:15 caught a train for Milwaukee. After I arrived there, I cleaned up and headed for home via the thumb. Reached home at 3:30 p.m. Mission completed.
The following is a page from the 107 Pulse from March 6, 1945.
We present the first in a series of thumbnail sketches on the members of the 107th Musical Yanks.
Since we feature the trumpet section, it is only fitting that we inaugurate the series with a profile on the first trumpet man in our brass team. His name, Private First Class James B. Hasler.
The boy would have you know he comes from Wisconsin, but don't let that fool you.
He was born in Michigan 19 years ago. His 5 years experience on trumpet has been, for the most part, with small combinations in the Middle West.
Jim combines an amazing amount of enthusiasm with technical skill and knowledge of his instrument.
Not only does he play a fine jazz horn, but he enjoys the stuff he plays.
His exuberance seems to be the spark plug of the band.
Jim stands just 6 feet tall, and he's all rhythm.
Next to sitting in with the band, his chief source of diversion from duties is dancing.
He never misses a dance in town if he can help it.
And he is one of the most popular men in the detachment in spite of his job.
Oh, we forgot. He happens to be one of our 2 buglers.
The next time you hear the bands, be sure to note that man on first trumpet.
His name is Hasler, and we're proud of him.
He's our own Harry James, and his solos are highlights.
On a rail, Mussolini'll beg for mercy. As a leader, he has failed. But there'll be no time for pity when the screaming eagle flies. That will be the end of Axis. They must answer with their lives. There'll be smoke on the water, on the land and the sea. When our army and navy overtakes the enemy, there'll be smoke on the mountains where the heathen gods stay, and the sun that is...
He was a famous trumpet man from out Chicago way. He had a boogie style that no one else could play. He was the top man at his craft. But then his number came up and he was gone with the draft. He's in the army now, a blowin' reveille. He's the boogie-woogie bugle boy of Company B. They made him blow a bugle for his Uncle Sam. It really brought him down because he couldn't jam. The captain seemed to understand, because the next day the cap went out and drafted a band. And now the company jumps when he plays reveille. He's the boogie-woogie bugle boy of Company B. A toot, a toot, a toot-a-toot, he blows it eight to the bar. In boogie rhythm, he can't blow a note unless the bass and guitar is playing with him. He makes the company jump when he plays reveille. He's the boogie-woogie bugle boy of Company B. He was a boogie-woogie bugle boy of Company B. And when he plays boogie-woogie bugle, he was busy as a bee. And when he plays, he makes the company jump eight to the bar. He's a boogie-woogie bugle boy of Company B. Toot-toot-toot-da-da, toot-da-da, toot-toot, he blows it eight to the bar. He can't blow a note if the bass and guitar isn't with him. And the company jumps when he plays reveille. He's a boogie-woogie bugle boy of Company B.